I now go to Dr. Abdul Hafiz Walusimbi. Doctor, as an academic and a co-founder of MAMUCA, you have seen informal curvy courts process. What are the biggest operational gaps that undermine access to justice in the family matters today?
I want to thank you for that question. You will excuse my voice. Before I could talk about the operational gaps, I think it is important, since we are in a season of protecting and consolidating gains, to also appreciate what are some of the achievements that the Qadi courts have actually registered, despite them acting in an informal way. I have been the Director of Sharia and Legal Affairs in the Office of the Supreme Mufti since the year 2021. And part of my responsibility is actually to sit as a judge. What I can assure you is that this is a full-time engagement. And really, once Muslims get to know that we can get justice away from the hassles and challenges of the conventional courts, they will give the first chance to the Qadi courts. That even when we are working informally, our files are full. Personally, acting as a judge there, I have handled more than 50 divorces, successfully handled, and at a very less cost, and in a swift manner. There is no much delay. Because one of the distinguishing characteristics of the Islamic judicial system is that you must stand out very clear. There is no falsification of issues. You are either right or you are wrong. And that is why usually when people come to my court, I usually give them two statements in the briefing. Number one, I am the one on trial. That's what I tell them. The two of you, one of you knows the truth. So you have just come here to try me, to see how am I going to decide. But one of you is what? Knows the truth. And this is, by the way, in line with what the Prophet ﷺ was doing. Because whenever people came to him, he could say, Inna ahdakum lakadhib, one of you is a liar. So in that situation, we have been in position to clear many issues related to divorce, many issues related to inheritance, and many other things, custody, guardianship, among others. So I feel that the audience, before we could even look at the gaps, should appreciate that there is some work that is going on. Now, what are some of the gaps? And I could talk about these gaps from the experience. Number one, of course, it is the lack of recognition. When people come to us and we decide, sometimes even when you issue a hearing, a summon, some of them are like, who is that calling me? I had one experience where I summoned one person. It was a divorce matter. And I said, who is that calling me? And I decided maybe not to come. But along the way, he contacted Justice Yasin Nyanzi. And Justice Yasin Nyanzi asked him, are you a Muslim? He said, yes. Have you bothered to know who has summoned you? And don't you have a case at home? He said, yes. Then Justice Yasin Nyanzi told him, find out who is behind that summon. Then he was told that it was Dr. Hafiz. Early morning, that party had already shown up. So people have that kind of contempt as a result of lack of recognition. And I see that as one of the gaps that we really need to fix. Number two, we don't have standardized, let me say, codes. What are we supposed to follow, for instance, in case of dispute? This is why I always emphasize that the many countries I have walked to where Qadi courts are working, they have what they call state madhab, the state school of thought. Because you know in Islamic law, especially in these branches, there is a lot of opinions of people, of the scholars. This one is saying this, the other one is saying this. So part of the operational gap is that we are not having a standardized code that we can follow, whereby we know that away from the scholarly views, this is the position of Muslims in Uganda. Maybe the third, in the interest of time, it is execution. We have had these cases, we have entertained them, and we have decided. Many times I share with Zubeda that I don't know whether I'm an adjudicator, I'm a mediator, I'm what, but I'm inspired by justice. Have I, at the end of the day, managed to offer justice to these people? Because to me, the procedure might not matter, as you have just heard from Hussein. Now, when we have decided certain cases, by the way, after people have appeared to us on several hearings, then, for instance, when we decided that the custody is in favor of maybe the lady, you find the man saying that, no, I cannot accept. We have even had cases whereby people hire the mafias so that they can go and take out the children and so on and so forth. Where we are deciding in matters of matrimonial property, it has also been the same issue. So that's why I think this discussion or this conversation is really long overdue, so that for us, we don't have a problem to unveil the gaps that we are passing through, because it is until when we unveil them, that is when we can get solutions. I thank you.
I now turn to Dr. Abdul Hafiz Walusimbi. Doctor, your work in arbitration and mediation bridges faith and law beautifully. How could formal Qadi courts incorporate alternative dispute resolution models to make them more efficient and community-rooted, perhaps inspired by international examples like Malaysia, Syria, and the Nigeria tribunals?
Thank you for the question. Of course, the formalization of Qadi courts and the incorporation of the alternative dispute resolution shall go a long way. First of all, to improve on the way we have been doing business. When you look at the ADR tools or models or approaches, the mediation, the arbitration, adjudication, expert evaluation, among others, I could say that we have been doing them either deliberately or not, with or without skills. I remember a case that I personally handled as a team leader. It was an inheritance matter. And the estate was up to the tune of 45 billion. One of the tycoons passed away here, and he entrusted our office through the will that we should distribute his estate in accordance to Islamic law. As a lead consultant in that, or a team leader, I could see myself in different capacities according to different stages. At one moment, I could be a mediator because they have to sign some forms in order to consent on mediation. Then at another moment, you can find them having disputes, and therefore I come in as an arbitrator. There are certain matters that really need expert evaluation from the Sharia perspective, and I could determine them. But the good thing is that at the end of the entire process, we registered 100% consent of all the beneficiaries, 45 billion. And that kind of achievement, someone could say that maybe it was one family. You know the families of Muslims. This was a family whereby the children were coming from 4 wives, and all of them were still alive. But alhamdulillah, we managed to handle this matter through different ADR mechanisms, which I can, personally, I could not even recognize whether I'm doing this or that. But at the end of it, as I had always said, I am driven by justice. I am driven by need. At one moment, somebody challenged me in my own court. A lawyer came and asked me that, where do you get the mandate to do this? I told him, don't play around with me. I get a mandate, my mandate is divine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed me in order to help people access justice. Surah Swad, verse 26. Ya Dawood, inna ja'alnaka khalifatan fil ard litahkuma bayna an-nasi bil haqq. O Dawood, we have established you in this world so that you can help people arrive at justice, so that you can follow the truth. From any person who has some knowledge about Islamic law, al-ulama warathatul anbiya. The scholars are the heirs of the prophets. So I told him, I am divinely appointed. After all, even the parties have accepted that I should be in between them. So I could conclude when I'm appealing to that question by saying that, how can really the Qadi courts incorporate this ADR mechanism? I think that is what we have to do. Number one, we need specialized trainings. We are doing this here and even at Supreme Council, but really we don't have all that what? Training. And I think this is where MAMAC should come in, that a project should be written to see that people who are engaged in day-to-day dispensation of justice are trained. The second last is build synergies. I acknowledge my weakness. I come from the Sharia perspective, even though I hold a diploma in law and I have had several engagements in the law, but I cannot speak from the position of authority legal matters. So where I have a deficit, why should I call Council Zubeda to come in so that we can build synergies, and at the end of the day, we give the parties the best? Maybe the last one is benchmarking, as you have just said. In Malaysia, it is there. In our neighboring here, Tanzania, specifically where? Zanzibar, it is working, among others. I think we can do better by having such benchmark visits, and then at the end of the day, once the Qadi courts come on board, we can be in position to offer better service. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Abdul Hafiz, from a scholarly point of view, how might gender equity be embedded in these Qadi courts? We have seen recent baseline surveys highlight women's voices sidelined. So what curriculum or training reforms would ensure inclusivity of women?
Thank you for the question. A quick response is in a verse, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask those who know in case you don't know. As far as Islamic law is concerned, there is no any gender problem. Islamic law, especially when it comes to these matters of judiciary, And I'm lucky to speak in the presence of my mentor, Dr. Sowed, Associate Professor Sowed. He can correct me if I go wrong. There are three major scholarly views about especially women involvement in judiciary. Of course, the majority say it is not okay for women to get involved in judicial matters or as judicial officers. But we find Imam Abu Hanifa, who is actually one of the great imams, saying that it is okay, it is only in so she can operate in non-criminal matters. Then we find another school of thought, the Zahiriya. They say there is no problem. A woman can participate, can act as a judicial officer at any level in all aspects, whether they are criminal or they are what? Civil. Now, the point that the audience should know in Islamic law, whenever there is dispute among scholars, you are free to choose the path that works for you. That is our principle. That is why the late Professor Karulawi said that this matter is decided by public interest. Even where countries you see that there are certain restrictions of women involvement, that is their public interest. And it's not necessarily our public interest. Aren't I going to be ashamed to rule out women involvement when Justice Syria Nagawa is here? You know? So this means that it is the public interest that should dictate how we should go about this matter. Now, what can we do in issues of training or not? The training is also not discriminative, as a matter of fact. And I can report to the audience that I speak now, we have several graduates of Sharia who are ladies, and some of them are already even in this house. Meaning that there is no problem. We don't even have to adjust the curriculum. Our curriculum speaks to the needs of our community, and that's why we have had those enrollments, and therefore, the only point I could say is that more women should come and join the Department of Sharia so that they actually qualify as judges or as magistrates in the Qadi courts. Thank you so much.
Doctor, I can't wait. Thank you for that. Because I'm seeing myself being the first chief of CAV since now women. Honorable Basalil, on that point, I know you are going to face a lot of hurdles. We have already gotten the answers to those who would be suggesting that it shouldn't be operationalized because ladies are not considered. You already have the answer.
A very burning one from me is to pass a vote of thanks to the judiciary. There has been situations whereby judgments come from our courts, and the judiciary has actually agreed with our judgments. We thank you so much for that. And also the second goes to the Office of the Administrator General, that when they file the inventory, especially when we are managing estates, they welcome them and they actually take acknowledgement of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Dr. Hafiz Walusimbi.
Thank you so much, moderator and the panelists. I want to join the previous speaker to say that really this is a practical discussion, and I want to submit briefly on 3 areas. Number 1, the issue of ignorance. Just to add my voice to the voice of Associate Professor and the voice of Council Katantas. Now, in the event that the deceased didn't do his work in order to educate his successors on issues of Islamic law. This takes us to the procedure we the Sharia distributors follow. And I want to share my simple experience. First of all, you need to come and open your file with my directorate. Immediately after opening that, I will call for a Sharia briefing. And I really take my good time to ensure that all the beneficiaries are there. And I teach them from the beginning up to the end, including all the categories that are there, and then I give them chance to ask questions. So by the end of that session, they know what they have applied for. Now after that, I inspect the entire property that has been brought to me. I always say that I act as a prison officer. I'm not responsible for anything that you did not declare to me. What you declare to me is what I will inspect. And I don't distribute what I have not inspected. Then 3, I issue a draft report and I share it with the executors so that they can share it with other beneficiaries in case of feedback. Then once they give me the feedback, then I will issue the final report. And this is, by the way, how I have succeeded to ensure 100% consent.
Now, just before you cede the microphone, the concept of sectors within the Muslim community in Uganda, as you understand it, some are able to have a directorate, some do not have. We have not yet operationalized the Qadhi's court. From your perspective, what is the missing link between answering the constitutional dictate and what impact has the intervention so far yielded from the directorate in terms of ensuring understanding and appreciation of Sharia law, particularly in administration and management of estates?
If I have got you right, when it comes to issues of the constitutional dictates versus the Sharia, we also have ways of going around that. Let me share just something simple. What has been coming from the panel is the issue of some of the members or some of the beneficiaries who are not provided for under Sharia. For instance, the apostates. Here is a person who is a Muslim and one of the children or the wives changed to another faith. Then you also have issues of children born outside the wedlock. Under Sharia, and this actually emphasizes the point of knowledge, we shall always find ways of handling that. Quran chapter 4 verse 8 tells us, وَإِذَا حَضَرَ الْقِسْمَةَ أُولِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ. When time comes for distribution, such people who might have not been catered for under Sharia, and really the necessity requires that we give them, and if we don't give them, by the way, they can go to civil courts and challenge, then we can find ways how we can bridge that gap. That is how we have been handling it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Warahmatullahi
You can also
wabarakatuh.
let us know who you want to answer your question.
Mohoz Abdul is my name, a student of law and Shariatul Islamiyya. Well, it's more of a comment.
Can you put your mic closer to your mouth?
It's more of a comment on what has been discussed today. Because we've talked about disseminating knowledge so that we get some things right. But I am of a view that one of the factors that we're shining here is that the public or the masses have actually lost trust in the sheikhs within. And that is the biggest challenge as to why it's not moving the way it should. Because you will find a sheikh comes today to distribute, and then before you know it, he's getting married to the widow. And these are stories that the people are really spreading. So these people have not lost belief in Allah, that Allah ordained this, but they have lost trust in the sheikhs, that is it really true that what he's saying was that Allah ordained? The last is a prayer. As we're pushing Qadhi courts to come in light, don't we think that it is also high time to think of maybe creating a database or a registration for the sheikhs we have in the country. Because you don't tell someone that just
Dr.
because
Mahmoud, I suppose you are noting.
you have finalized with Thanawi and then you are a sheikh. No, you're not. But those are the problems that we're facing. I have a professor who usually call them Baseka Seka, Baseka Were. And then we're thinking that they are actually knowledgeable, but they are not. We've seen sheikhs who are collecting Zakatul Mali every month. You see, so good enough we have very senior members in our faith, and Supreme Council is presented, and we have the Director of Sharia. So I think we really need, as we are pushing for the courts, because even if we have the Qadhi's courts, people have lost trust. Who tells us that they will come with their problems in the Qadhi courts? So I really think we need a database to know who is a sheikh and who is not. Thank you so much.
That is noted, but I remember the moderator posed that question to Dr. Sowed, that how do we deal with those imams? I don't know whether someone, let's hear from the Director of Sharia.
Thank you so much. I want to start with that one. Of course, we are aware of that challenge. And we have decided as the Department of Sharia at Islamic University in Uganda to start the Sharia Scholars Council. And we have started it, and I'm even happy to report that Associate Professor Dr. Sowed Mayanja is the chairman of the steering team to lead us there. That is the first one. Then the second that has come out of my brother Abdul Salam. Of course, there are issues with sheikhs, would be issues with others. Sheikhs are human beings. And if it is greed, even others have greed. But our emphasis usually, it has been professionalism. And this is, by the way, what we are training our students of Sharia and even other specializations. Finally, I would like to call upon those who are engaged in distribution to familiarize themselves with the law of the land. There is no way you can go ahead and handle such estates without knowing what are the dictates of the law of the land. I just want to cite one example and hand over the mic. The issue of letters of administration. We have taken concern that this is a requirement. That is why in our stages of distribution, there is a document gathering. I make sure that I don't dispute any estate until when I have a will, if it is there, I have a death certificate to confirm that, I have letters of probate or letters of administration, and then even the inventory, especially that has come up as a result of evaluation report. Because me as a Sharia scholar, I cannot come and I say that this building is worth this. I require them that please bring to me the property, and I want an evaluation report from a professional. So if at all we familiarize ourselves with those dynamics, I'm sure that we can be in position to address many of such concerns. Thank you so much.
Before you take leave, a question has just been posed here, that do you ever distribute the properties before issuance of probate or letters of administration as your Sharia board?
In my court, never. It is one of the requirements. Once you don't have it, I will say that please go and look for it until when it comes to my table. Thank you.
The question I had for Dr. Hafiz was, if this family has come to you and they already have a grant, and someone says we are coming to you, and then another person says no, we are going to Old Kampala, That type of situation. How do you handle a situation where people are falling the other side and others are saying we are going this side? Finally, I was also suggesting, like His Worship, is it possible for you to do a tentative distribution? A distribution scheme, not giving the house to a person, but a distribution scheme which they then attach and move with the process of getting letters of administration. Because if you wait, the biggest problem has been for us, as everyone has said, Muslims, we are like, forgive me Allah, we are like recorded in quarreling mode or something like that. We're like, we have a default setting of quarreling. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm giving Doctor 1.5 minutes to respond to that. Then there is a question posed to Justice Sekana and Justice Syria. And that is next, before you go to our sister Nachtende, Fatina. Just switch it on.
Thank you so much. In 1.5 minutes, how do we handle cases where we have parties? One is saying that for us, we believe in Chibuli. The other one believes in Old Kampala. This matter, by the way, is not only in estate distribution.
Can we come back to the summit? Members, you're disorganizing backbenchers. Please come back to the summit. Proceed.
I'm saying briefly, it is not only in estate management, but even there are cases whereby marriage was concluded at Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, but now the parties want it dissolved from Chibuli. That has been there. And you find one party saying that, for me, I will not come there because my marriage was not concluded from there. How do we handle? First, we go into mediation. We try as much as possible to convince these parties to be on the same page. But failure to have that, I had always made it clear that we are in the same boat. And actually, the Muslim community is a very small community. I have had several cases whereby I call Sheikh Musana in case there is any issue between, which is at Uganda Muslim Council. And at one moment, by the way, I had made an error in handling a certain divorce matter. And he called me and said, my brother, this is not the way how we do it. So my point here is that since we are in the same boat, we should actually collaborate. And this goes back to what His Worship said. These issues of this one attacking this and so on, if we are to build a future of this community, we just need to do away with that and focus, and we register success. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is something I came across without mentioning specificities. Somebody, I think at Antas, you know, we were into this together. Somebody made a trust and said that when I die, my estate should be managed by the office of so and so. That office, the decision will be final. That office, if the holder doesn't have this qualification, the bearer of that office should appoint a person who has Thanawi.
Who have these qualifications?
A lawyer, but must have what? Thanawi. So we went on a search for a lawyer who has what? Thanawi. I just want to understand, as Justice has been asking, everybody comes around telling us, Sharia, Sharia. I'm an expert in Sharia, Sharia. What is the stream of Sharia that deals with marriage and distribution of estates? So that when we are recommending people, we know whom we are sending them to. We might send them to a person with Sharia, but the person specializes in banking and finance. Or it specializes in Mudaraba, insurance. So how do we get to know the right person to send these people to? I think the managers of the Sharia Scholars Association should be able to tell us.
Okay. Allow me to take only 2 hands, one from a lady and another from a gentleman, and thereafter we shall have closing remarks. The first one is Shekat Fatina Nachtende.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to commend our judicial system. I am an advocate and I practice in the High Court and all court subordinate there are too, and I go with my niqab. And no advocate has ever kicked me out. So thank you for that. That's a recognition. Now, we want, in as much as we want to practice law, we want to keep it in line with our religion. I have a question for the Sharia consultants here and also our dear judges. Out there in our families, they tell us, why do you call an advocate, why do you call a judge my lord? Okay? They say while we, in courts, we claim to be following, following our religion, we bow to you people, we call you my lord, and they tell us we are actually doing shirik or something like that. Dear Sharia experts here, please content our hearts and the hearts of our parents who paid school fees for us to do law, that we are not doing shirik while, by going to the courts and by in courts these judges, please.
I just wanted to answer.
Hajat Fatina.
What Fatina
about
raised.
the question over there, sure. The word lordship
the issue
and worship.
Of, my Lord, my worship, your worship. These are semantics. These are just terminologies. And as far as Sharia is concerned, you can be your lordship, but at a human level. Of course, you all know that Allah is the Lord. So there is no problem as far as Sharia is concerned by usage of that terms. One could ask, where is the proof? There are 2 verses in the Holy Quran. Number 1, in Surah to Yusuf, Yusuf tells his brothers, أَلَا تَرَوْنَ أَنِّي أُوفِي الْكَيْلَ وَأَنَا خَيْرُ الْمُنزِلِينَ. Don't you see that I'm the one in charge of the treasures of Egypt, and I am the best settler, Khairul Munzilin. So Yusuf says, I'm the best settler. When you go to Surah Al-Mu'minun, Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam, he says, Rabbi anzilni munzalan mubarakan wa anta khairul munzilin. Oh Lord, settle me in the best settlement because you are the best settler. So this is the best settler. Allah is the best settler at his level, at his majesty. And at human level, then you are Lord, you are what, and so on and so forth. And that's it. Thank you so much.